ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः तदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादां सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नामिने गौरकृषे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिकान्ता राधाकान्ता नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नमोस्तुते व्यासविशालबुद्धे फुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्रे येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वलितो ज्ञानमय प्रदीपः प्रपन्ना परिजाताय स्तोत्रवैत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। Welcome everyone to Bhakti-sastri and Gita-sastri class. We're studying chapter 7 of Bhagavad-gita, knowledge of the Supreme. In the previous class, we discussed Lord Krishna explaining about his material and spiritual energy, and then telling us that he's the essence of everything. He gave us some examples, like he's the taste of water, he's the heat in fire, he's the life of all that lives. And then, though he's omnipresent and everything is under his control, everything is influenced by him, still people are not able to perceive his presence because of being deluded by the three modes of material nature. So Krishna introduces the topic of three modes of material nature, the gunas. And then he says, overcoming these gunas is possible by surrendering unto him. So it sounds pretty easy that we are in delusion because we are under the modes. And if we surrender to Krishna, the illusion will get dispelled. So naturally, then comes a question in the mind of Arjuna, do all surrender to you? If not, who does not surrender? And who does surrender, right? So in response to that, Lord Krishna is going to speak the verse 7.15, where he'll say about four kinds of people who do not surrender. Then in 7.16, he'll talk about people who do surrender. Then he's going to talk about who is better amongst them, who surrenders to him, who is the best amongst them. And then Arjuna will ask, do all surrender to you? Krishna says, no, there are some who do surrender, but not to me. They surrender to the demigods. So then the topic of demigod worship also comes in this chapter. That's how the chapter flows. Right? Now let's look at verse number 15 from this chapter. Namang dushkritano mulaha prapadyante naradhamaha ma yayapahrita jnana asuran bhavam ashritaha. Namam duskritino. Dushkritinaha means one who engages in wrong activities. Mulaha naradhamaha ma yapahrita jnana asuran bhavam ashritaha. So four categories are mentioned here, or four classes are mentioned. These four categories of dushkritis do not surrender to Krishna. Srila Prabhupada explains this verse in the context of the modern times. Who are these people? But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Baldev Vidyabhushan gives a different light to the verse. You know, however, it's correct either way because we have to look at the quality and these points which are mentioned here about these four categories. They are not the exhaustive list. You can add more. You can add more classes of people to these four categories. Let's read the translation. I'll not read the entire purport here because the purport is very long. So you can read it on your own. And if you have a question from the purport, you can ask in the next class. Read the translation. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Mhm. So Prabhupada, in the beginning, he says, it is said in Bhagavad-gita that simply by surrendering oneself unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality, Krishna, one can surmount the stringent laws of material nature. At this point, a question arises. How is it that educated philosophers, scientists, businessmen, administrators, and all the leaders of ordinary men do not surrender to the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, the all-powerful personality of Godhead? Mukti or liberation from the laws of material nature is sought by the leaders of mankind in different ways and with great plans and perseverance for a great many years and births. But if that liberation is possible by simply surrendering unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then why don't these intelligent and hardworking leaders adopt this simple method? So the reason is because they are dushkritanaha. In the third paragraph, he mentions the atheistic plan makers are described herein by the word dushkritana or miscreants. Kriti means one who has performed meritorious work. The atheist plan maker is sometimes very intelligent and meritorious also. But because any gigantic plan, good or bad, must take intelligence to execute. But because the atheist brain is improperly utilized in opposing the plan of the Supreme Lord, the atheistic plan maker is called dushkriti, which indicates that his intelligence and efforts are misdirected. Okay. So please read the purport later on your own. And we'll just look at how Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has explained these four categories. So regarding mulas, he says, animalistic fools. Most often those who work very hard day and night to clear the burden of self-created duties say that they have no time to hear of the immortality of the living beings. To such mulas, material gains, which are destructible, are life's all in all, despite the fact that the mulas enjoy only a very small fraction of the fruit of labor. Hmm. Fine. So these are the first category, working like an ass, unnecessarily. Hmm. Fine. The next, Naradhamas. Please read this. Someone please volunteer to read. Yes, Ashok and Ajay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Aradhamas, lowest of mankind. In the Gita, the personality of Godhead clearly states that there is no authority above him and that he is the supreme truth. The civilized form of human life is meant for man's reviving the lost consciousness of his eternal relation with the supreme truth, the personality of Godhead Shri Krishna, who is all powerful. Whoever loses this chance is classified as a Radhama. Hare Krishna.
Just give me a second, please. Mm, mm. Next, Maya Parhita Jnana. Maya Parhita Jnani is often follow atheistic Sankhya philosophy and think that creation is enacted by material nature. They are mostly very learned fellows, great philosophers, poets, literati, scientists, etc. The Mayapahita Jnana deride the personality of the Supreme Lord and consider him merely another human being. So here you see, Srila Prabhupada in his explanation talks about Mayapahita Jnanis as the modern scientists whose knowledge is deluded by illusion. But Vishwanath Thakur, in those days, there were no scientists, for so much in material knowledge. So he talks about the so-called Vedic scholars who knows the Vedas, who are very scholarly, might be involved in karma kanda, etc. But they, though they study the scriptures, they don't know the main purpose of the scriptures. Right? Fine. And then fourth is Asuryam Bhavam Ashritaha. Alok Prabhuji, please read.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandvat. Such person whose very principle of life is to decry the personality of Godhead cannot surrender onto the lotus feet of Sri Krishna.
Yes. So they are envious of God. Okay. Then Krishna talks about the four kinds of people who do surrender to him. Who are they? Chaturvidha bhajante mam china supritina arjuna. Arjuna arto chikya surarthati jnani cha bharatarshava. O best among the Bharatas, four kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute. Let's read the purport. Abhishek Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prajadana Pranam. Unlike the miscreants, these are adherents of the regulative principles of the scriptures, and they are called Sukritana, or those who obey the rules and regulations of the scriptures, the moral and the social laws, and are more or less devoted to the Supreme Lord. Out of these, there are four classes of men: those who are sometimes distressed, those who are in the need of money, those who are sometimes inquisitive, and those who are sometimes searching after the knowledge of the absolute truth. These persons come to the Supreme Lord for the devotional service under different conditions. These are not pure devotees because they have some aspiration to fulfill in exchange for the devotional service. Pure devotional service is without aspiration and without desire for the material profit. The Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu defines Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu 1.1.11 defines pure devotion thus: अन्यभिलाषिता शून्यं ज्ञाना कर्मादि अन्वृतम् अनुकूलेन कृष्णानु शिलानं भक्तिर उत्तमम्. Prabhuji, can you scroll up a little bit? One should render transcendental loving service. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for the material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculations. That is called the pure devotional service. When these four kinds of person come to the Supreme Lord for the devotional service and are completely purified by the association of the pure devotees, they also become pure devotees. As far as the miscreants are concerned, for them, devotional service is very difficult because their lives are selfish, irregular, and without spiritual goals. But even some of them, by chance, when they come in contact with the pure devotees, also become pure devotees. Those who are always busy with the fruitive activities come to the Lord in the material distress, and at that time associate with the pure devotees and become in their distress devotees of the Lord. Those who are simply frustrated also come sometimes to associate with the pure devotees and become inquisitive to know about God. Similarly, when the dry philosophers are frustrated in every field of knowledge, they sometimes want to learn of God, and they come to the Supreme Lord to render devotional service, and thus transcendental knowledge of the impersonal Brahman and the localized and Paramatma and come to the personal conception of the Godhead by the grace of the Supreme Lord or his pure devotee. On the whole, when the distressed and the inquisitive, the seeker of the knowledge, and those who are in the need of money are free from all the material desires, and when they fully understand that the material remunerations has nothing to do with the spiritual improvement, they become pure devotees. As long as such a purified stage is not attained, devotees in transcendental service to the Lord are tainted with the fruitive activities, the similar, the search for mundane knowledge, etc. So one has to transcend all this before one can come to the stage of the pure devotional service. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So very clearly we understand from the purport that Srila Prabhupada mentions these four categories of people who approach Krishna are not in the category of pure devotional service. They come to Krishna for some material desire, or they want liberation from material miseries. A question may come in one's mind that here it's mentioned, those who are distressed, they go to Krishna. Those who are in want of wealth, they go to Krishna. Those who are inquisitive, they go to Krishna. However, do all who suffer or who need wealth go to Krishna? No. So the only qualification is not that one is suffering, one is in need of money. The main point or criterion here is they are sukritinaha. Sukritinaha then means they have done some good activity, pious activity. Now we learn from Madhurya Kadamani, Vishwanath Thakur explains, no material pious activity can bring one to devotional service. That is not possible. So what is that pious activity or sukriti that one becomes qualified to render devotional service or approach Krishna or surrender to Krishna? So then he says that is Ajnata Sukriti. Refers to pious activities leading to devotional service, performed without the actor's knowledge or intention of doing devotional service. That's called Ajnata Sukriti. Can we give example of Ajnata Sukriti? Some examples.
Dropping the devotee to the temple.
Dropping the devotees to the temple means okay, giving them a lift. Okay, fine. And
Same like a Jamil says Narayana without knowing. Can this be called?
all right, chanting the holy name of the Lord.
Getting Krishna,
Unknown.
getting Krishna Prasadam.
Getting Krishna Prasadam. Yes. And
Associating with the devotees without their knowledge.
yeah, I'm unknowingly serving a devotee without knowing that that person is a devotee of Krishna. Correct. And
Giving flowers to some person for offering.
okay, means indirectly engaging them in devotional service. Yes. And
Prabhuji, one example which I heard from Maharaj is Zoom. Zoom is also getting an Agyan Security because all of us are using in the service of the Lord.
basically, the person who manufactured Zoom or whoever had this idea. So it's a very indirect way of, yes. And
Giving some
something.
Lakshmi In the service of the Lord
donation,
unknowingly.
donation in the service of the Lord. Correct. What else?
Even the printing the books, the books, the printers like Macmillan, they those people are getting against.
Okay, fine. Who helped in printing of books? Who gave a concession? Who gave a discount or whatever? And
Unintentionally hearing Mahamantra.
what? Yes, Kirtan.
Right.
Correct. And
We buy cloth for the dresses of the deities.
yes, okay. Pulling the cart of Lord Jagannath against Shruti. Right. So many people get a chance to do that. So this is the way their bhakti may begin. And this is how the preachers or those who are willing to share Krishna consciousness, they utilize the opportunities that come their way to help people move closer to Krishna, right? Not everyone will get directly connected to Krishna. So they give indirect opportunities to serve Krishna, to serve devotees, to serve the mission of Krishna, right? For some cause. They may not have a devotional cause or a transcendental cause. They may have a material cause. But then if that material cause is associated with Krishna, then that cause also becomes in some way devotional. So that's all Ajnata Sukriti, right? And then there are examples of personalities who approach Krishna because of these different intentions. So many examples can be there, but from scriptures we take the example. Like, who falls in the category of distressed? We know that. It's very simple. Who approached Krishna for help in this list of examples given? Gajendra, right? Artha. It is Gajendra who approached Krishna out of distress. Then inquisitive, desiring to understand the soul or becoming self-realized. So these were the sages of Naimisharanya or Shaunak Rishi. Then the desire of wealth, so Dhruv Maharaj. And the seeker of knowledge, desiring knowledge and liberation, the four Kumaras or Shukdev Goswami. Right? Isn't it? So out of these, who are the calm? With material desire.
Gajendra.
Dhruv Maharaj.
Yes, these three are Sakha. Artha, Jigyasu, and Arthati. And then Jnani is Nishkam. Right? These people are not pure devotees. But can they become pure devotees? Or can they come to pure devotional service?
Yes, they
Yes.
can.
What is the way?
Associating with the devotees.
Associating with pure devotees.
Pure
Right?
devotees, yeah.
Then they can also come to pure devotional service. That's the way. Therefore, initially anyone who comes to iskcon, hardly that person would be with pure intentions, completely pure intentions. Mostly they would be desiring wealth or in distress or out of curiosity. Gaurang Prabhu, he says, well, in Kali Yuga, there is only one category, and that category is Artha, 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 and Artha. Distress, 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 and distress. Hardly you find people who are, desiring wealth or they're suffering, isn't it? So they come. Is my voice cracking? My internet is weak. Is it so?
Yes, so.
Video was paused.
Little.
Sorry?
Little, Prabhuji.
Just happened once.
Okay, because it's raining here very heavily.
Just
I'll,
paused a
I'll,
little bit. Yeah.
I'll shut my video. In the Prabhupada also mentioned in 7.16, he said, let's read this line. As far as the miscreants are concerned, for them devotional service is very difficult because their lives are selfish, irregular, and without spiritual goals. Right? So this is something which we understand here again, that having these qualities or absence of these some of good qualities makes it difficult for one to approach Krishna. So in general, if a person is selfless in nature, disciplined in nature, focused in life, has some spiritual goals, for that person, there are more chances to adopt Krishna consciousness. Okay, little exercise for yourself. Introspect. In which category you belonged when you first accepted Krishna consciousness? It can be a mixture also. It's up to you. I mean, keep it to yourself. You don't have to express it. The point is not which category we belong to, but the point is, as the Acharya is explained, even if you belong to Sakam category, over the time you should try to come to Nishkam category. Or if we approach Krishna in distress for material prosperity out of curiosity, then the Acharya is explained, then try to at least rise to the level of Jnana, means practice Krishna consciousness with knowledge. Simple. Now, very easy question to answer. Of the four, who is most dear to Krishna and why?
Jnani, because he knows who Krishna is.
Jnani is most dear. Why is he most dear?
Because he knows about the transcendental activities of Krishna.
Okay, what else?
He is
Let's-
Nishkam Prabhuji. He has no expectations.
So then what makes him dear then? If he's Nishkam, why does that make him dear?
He has no material expectation, Prabhuji. He only has, he
But
needs knowledge.
Krishna has no problem fulfilling material expectations. Krishna has so much to give. He can give. What makes Jnani dear?
He's not a bogey. He just want to learn the knowledge of Lordship, and mainly you don't know about the knowledge of the Krishna, of the knowledge reason he is being there. So that is
The
the
main
reason he is
reason
trying
is,
to understand Krishna.
Guruji, can it be that he thinks of Krishna alone because he knows the Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead? He knows and worships only Krishna and nobody else.
yes. So the answer is given in the next verse. The two characteristics of his approach, which makes him dear. Tesham jnani nitya yukta eka bhaktir vishishyate priyo hi jnani no atyartham aham sacha mama priyaha. Of these, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best. He is nitya yuktaha and he is eka bhakti. Nitya yukta means always engaged. Eka bhakti means focused in one's devotional service or approach. And because he does not have material desires or she does not have material desires, he or she does not leave Krishna consciousness. But the others, sometimes they do leave when their desires are fulfilled, or sometimes out of frustration when their desires are not fulfilled. Let's read the purport. Gunagrai Garanta.
Krishna Prabhupada. So free from all contaminations of material desires, the distress, the inquisitiveness, the penniless, and the seeker after supreme knowledge can all become pure devotees. But out of them, he who is in knowledge of the absolute truth and free from all material desires become a really pure devotee of the Lord. And of the four orders, the devotee who is in full knowledge and is at the same time engaged in devotional service is, the Lord says, the best. By searching after knowledge, one realizes that his self is different from his material body. And when further advanced, he comes to the knowledge of impersonal Brahman and Paramatma. And when one is fully purified, he realizes that his constitutional position is to be the eternal servant of God. So, by association with pure devotees, the inquisitive, the distressed, the seeker after material amelioration, and the man in knowledge all become themselves pure. But in the preparatory stage, but in the preparatory stage, the man who is in the full knowledge of Supreme Lord and is at the same time executing devotional service is very dear to the Lord. He who is situated in pure knowledge of the transcendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so protected in devotional service that material contamination cannot touch him. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So as I mentioned, these are the two qualities. Nitya Yukta, Eka Bhaktir. Nitya Yukta means does not leave Krishna. And Eka Bhakti means exclusive and devotional service to Krishna. So that person becomes dear to Krishna. The approach is selfless. Now, what about others? Are they not dear to Krishna? Because they approach Krishna with material desires? What is Krishna's perspective regarding them? What's his outlook? They are selfish. Krishna knows they are selfish. And they are coming to Krishna. So what is Krishna's perspective towards them? Are they not dear? Yes or no?
Yes, Prabhuji, they are dear.
They are dear. Why they are dear?
Because at least they approach Krishna.
At least they have
They
come to.
regularly come. They regularly come to Krishna.
At least
they are on
the
Fine. So therefore Krishna says in the next verse, Udaraha sarva evaite jnani tu atmaiva me matam astitah sa yuktatma mam evanu tamam katim. All these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls. Krishna is calling them not just, that they are dear to him, but Krishna is calling them magnanimous souls. Udaraha. As if they are doing a favor to Krishna, that they are coming to Krishna. So magnanimous souls. But he who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider to be just like my own self. Being engaged in the transcendental service, he is sure to attain me, the highest and most perfect goal. Why is Krishna calling them magnanimous souls? Because Krishna has seva bhav. He wants to serve. He's eager to serve anyone who comes to him, even if that person comes because of material desires. Because that person approaches Krishna, Krishna considers that person magnanimous because that person is giving Krishna a chance to serve or to do something for him. So Krishna is saying they're magnanimous because they're coming to me. Now, if that is Krishna's attitude or approach towards such people, what should be our approach towards such people? Those who are coming to Krishna for fulfillment of material desires?
Definitely, we have to serve them as well.
Or should we blast them and bombard them with philosophy and tell you all are rascals, why you are coming to Krishna consciousness with so many material desires? Don't come
Slowly
to
and steadily, Prabhuji, we need to bring them to the real knowledge, ask them to chant, so on.
So, the attitude is very important. Just because they're coming to Krishna, they are special. And that's why that respect has to be given to them. And I sometimes think if the way we preach Krishna consciousness, if we become a little more respectful at an approach, a little more, compassionate in that way, I think we'll be able to preach much more than we are able to preach at present. The way we treat the visitors in the temples, the way we treat newcomers, the way we treat our supporters, donors, life members, right? The way we treat the people who are well-wishers of iskcon. If we treat them more respectfully, perhaps they will also take to Krishna consciousness. Maybe not soon, but sometime. With respect, if we treat them. But if we are with this attitude that you are a demon and now you are coming to Krishna consciousness, and you are so sinful and you are so much full of wrong, then we will send people away. Right? So here Krishna is saying they're magnanimous. Magnanimous souls. Krishna considers the magnanimous souls.
Prabhuji,
Prabhupada,
how do we understand this Krishna statement? I consider to be just like my own. I consider them to be just like my own self.
he's talking about the Gyanis, right? So this is a way of saying if someone is dear to you, then what do you say? If that person is dear to you, then your happiness is my happiness, right? So Krishna is saying that I treat them just like myself, my own self. They are so dear to me. They're like my own. Okay, fine.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
Prabhuji,
Krishna.
one question. Prabhuji, in the previous verse also, when Krishna is saying about yogi, he is not saying about that yogi, full yogi, but he is saying about yogi who is bhakta also, right? Who is a devotee. Not
Which verse?
just
Jnani. You're talking about Jnani.
yes, sir, yes, sir. Yes, Prabhuji.
So you
Jnani.
see, when we talk about someone who is approaching Krishna and that person is a Jnani, then that person does have a mixture of bhakti. That's why that person is approaching Krishna.
Mm.
So when you're talking about Karmi, who is approaching Krishna, there is some mixture of bhakti, therefore is approaching Krishna. So that goes without saying. A pure Jnani or a pure Karmi, why would he approach Krishna? So when you talk about Jnani and Karmi, in the context of Bhagavad-gita, if it's not pure Jnani, pure Karmi, we are talking about a Jnani Karmi who has mixture of devotional service. So technically it's more of Jnana Mishra or Karma Mishra or Bhakti Mishra Jnana, Bhakti Mishra Karma.
Mm.
Right?
Okay.
Fine. So there has to be some element of devotion. That has to be there.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Let's read this purport. Shamala Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Others are also dear. It is not the devotees who are less complete in knowledge or not dear to the Lord. The Lord says that all are magnanimous because anyone who comes to the Lord for any purpose is called a Mahatma or great soul. The devotees who want some benefit out of devotional service are accepted by the Lord because there is an exchange of affection. Out of affection, they ask the Lord for some material benefits, and when they get it, they become so satisfied that they also advance in devotional service. Purport 7.18. Hare Krishna.
Bahunam janmanamante Yanavan mam prapatyate Vasudevah sarvam viti Samahatma sudurlabha. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. So now Krishna is talking about those jnanis who, after many, many births, become a Krishna Bhakta, pure devotee of Krishna. Then such person is very, very dear to Krishna, and such soul is very rare. Right? Fine. Bahunam Janmanam Ante. After a long time, that person becomes jnani. Appear to be sorry. Let's read this purport. Sanatana Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. The living entity, while executing devotional service or transcendental rituals after many, many births, may actually become situated in transcendental pure knowledge that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal of spiritual realization. In the beginning of spiritual realization, while one is trying to give up one's attachment to materialism, there is some leaning towards impersonalism. But when one is further advanced, he can understand that there are activities in the spiritual life and that these activities constitute devotional service. Realizing this, he becomes attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and surrenders to Him. At such a time, when one understands that Lord Shri Krishna's mercy is everything, that He is the cause of all causes, and that this material manifestation is not independent from Him, he realizes the material world to be a perverted reflection of spiritual variegatedness, and realizes that in everything there is a real relationship with the Supreme Lord Krishna. Thus, he thinks of everything in relation to Vasudeva or Shri Krishna. Such a universal vision of Vasudeva precipitates one's full surrender to the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna as the highest goal. Such surrendered great souls are very rare.
Next paragraph. Varshana Dina.
Hare Krishna. This verse is very nicely explained in the 3rd chapter, verses 14 and 15 of Shweta Svatara Upanishad. Saharsha Shirsha Purusha Sahasaraksha Sahasrapat Sa Bhumin Vishwato Vritva Tyatishab Dasan Gulam Purusha Evadam Sarvam Yad Bhutam Yadcha Bhavyam Uttam Ratavasya Yesyano Yad Annena Tirohati. Lord Vishnu has thousands of heads, thousands of eyes, and thousands of feet, entirely encompassing the whole universe. He still extends beyond it by 10 fingers' breadth. He is, in fact, this entire universe. He is all that was and all that will be. He is the Lord of immortality and of all that is nourished by food. In the Chandogya Upanishad 5.1.15, it is said, Na ve vacho na chakshumasi na shrotarani na manamasite achaksate prana iti eva chakshate prano he eva evetani sarvani bhutani. In the body of a living being, neither the power to speak, nor the power to see, nor the power to hear, nor the power to think is the prime factor. It is the life here, which is the center of all activities. Similarly, Lord Vasudeva, or the personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna is the prime entity in everything. And because Vasudeva is all pervading and everything is Vasudeva, the devotee surrenders in full knowledge. Bhagavad-gita 7.17 and 11.40. Hare Krishna.
So this is just an explanation how Vasudeva Sarvamiti. That person realized this, a Jnani realizes this, that Krishna is everything through the approach of Jnana. Srila Prabhupada explains here, however, in the beginning of spiritual realization, while one is trying to give up one's attachment to materialism, there is some leaning towards impersonalism. But when one is further advanced, he can understand that there are activities in the spiritual life, and these activities constitute devotional service. So this is very interesting comment by Srila Prabhupada here. That in the beginning, when one is trying to give up one's material attachment, there is some leaning towards impersonalism. This is observed in any sadhaka, mostly. So any devotee, practicing devotee in Krishna consciousness in iskcon, will also go through that phase where you start a bit, you start hating material life, or you become too frustrated with material life. And that's why you want to go away from material duties, responsibilities, relationships. There's a kind of that kind of, attraction because of development of jnana. However, then one realizes, though I'm getting attracted towards renunciation, my heart is still not pure or clean. I still have material desires. Then one gets a little confused, what should I do now? I feel inclined towards that direction, but I am not yet prepared for it. So some people, they give up. They're like, it's okay. I can never be a pure devotee. Forget it. Let me just remain like that. Or some people, they become fanatic. No, 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 no. No material desires. Deny your mind. Deny yourself. Repress yourself. So they go into that zone. And very few people are able to understand that the material desires will continue to disturb us. We have to actively engage our desires in serving Krishna. Right? And that is the process of devotional service. That is tough, but then that gives good results in long term. But somehow the repressing one's desires or denying material desires, it only makes one more impersonal in one's approach. Right? And then that impersonalism is seen in our dealings with other devotees also, in our dealings with the members of the organization, in our dealings with general people, common people. We see that impersonalism coming up, So that's because of going into a different zone. And most of the devotees go into that zone. Those who are serious devotees, sincere devotees, go into that zone. But those who are mature, then they slowly try to come out of it. And those who are not mature, then they become fanatic. Some kind of fanaticism enters them, which becomes then an obstacle in their own devotional service of Krishna consciousness in long run. Right? So Prabhupada says there is always a chance to get attracted towards impersonalism. So one cannot be attracted to materialism, one also cannot be attracted to impersonalism. One has to be devotional. That's the difficult thing, to be devotional in spirit and serving Krishna with that spirit. Okay, fine.
One small question.
Yes.
In Sloka 19, that Jnani Bhakti, he said, he is very dear to me. I consider him to be myself. Then going ahead of that, then he says, pure Bhakta is more than the Jnani. What does pure Bhakta avails? That Jnani, he says, he is my own self. After that, what remains? That he says, only Bhakta is more dear to me than Jnani.
Then he will say, for Bhakta, I become their servant.
Okay. Krishna will have that form of serving his devotee.
Of course, Krishna serves his pure devotees.
What exactly is the quality which makes Jnani into Keval Bhakti? Is it 100% surrender to Krishna or anything else comes after so many births of the Jnani?
What makes a Jnani completely surrender to Krishna or become a pure devotee of Krishna? That person's desire for liberation gets removed. Jnani means one who wants freedom from material problems. So then that devotee gets rid of that desire. And it's okay if I suffer, no problem. But I want to serve Krishna. I don't want to serve Krishna to get free from material sufferings. No. I'll serve Krishna. Therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, right? He said he wrote for for a pure devotee of Krishna, if for serving Krishna one has to go to hell, he'll be most happy in hell.
It is Mam Janmani Janmanishwari, same kind of.
Yeah, same kind of.
Ahetuki bhakti. Okay.
I don't want even material liberation. I don't want freedom from problems in life. Right?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Means no, that final little swarth or selfish interest, that is also gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, as you mentioned that initially when the devotee join, uh, there are impersonalism in them because they develop a vairagya, which is a symptoms of a jnani. Uh,
Hmm.
but in so is it that so if we have a vairagya or which is symptoms of jnani, so how can we just directly link with impersonalism? Impersonalism,
No,
what I understand.
Vairagya is of different types. There is Vairagya which is born of jnana, and there is Vairagya which is born of pure devotion to Krishna. So, when we don't have pure devotion to Krishna, how can we have Vairagya born of pure devotion?
Okay.
Then our Vairagya is born of knowledge, Gyan. You're getting it? So, Vairagya is nothing, Vairagya is not wrong, Vairagya is very important. But then that Vairagya is born from what? It is born from pure devotion to Krishna, then it's very good. But if it is born out of knowledge, of frustration of this material world, then it's different kind of Vairagya. Right? As we don't have pure devotion to Krishna, we have to take support from even that false Vairagya for some time. But we can't stay in that transit zone for a long time. Then it becomes an obstacle for Krishna consciousness. You're getting it,
Thank you,
Prabhuji?
Prabhuji. Thank you,
Yeah.
Prabhuji.
So,
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, what are the symptoms of the dealing when a person comes into impersonalist mode because of the frustration and
Well,
practicing this devotee?
lot of different ways a devotee will start behaving or thinking or conceptualizing. Impersonalism means you become a little unfriendly in nature, right? You are less concerned about others. You are not thinking in a broader way how your practice of devotional service is affecting the society, right? So, impersonalism basically means you are not being respectful the way you should be towards others. And you become self-centered, kind of thinking too much about the self. Right. So then impersonalism creeps in. And there is some sort of happiness in that. What kind of happiness? Well, you don't trouble others, others don't trouble you. So you're happy. That kind of happiness. I don't care for you. You also don't care for me. You don't disturb me. So it gives you some sort of temporary relief from obligations or duties. Fine. But then the problem with that is it only makes the heart dry. And then we start losing emotions which we need to serve Krishna. Right. Then as you become emotionless towards people around you, soon you realize you also become emotionless towards Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji. That means this association is so much necessary, Prabhuji, that when we are thinking we are not liking to be in association, it is also a symptom that one can check themselves.
Yeah, if you always like to be just alone, then it's not very healthy. At least at our level, because we are not Paramahamsas who can be alone, They can be alone, but they are not alone. They are with Krishna and the eternal associates of Krishna.
Yes.
We being alone means we are with our mind. That's our being alone.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for this explanation. Hare Krishna.
At the same time, it's not wrong to take out some time for yourself. It may be your nature also that you don't like to mingle with so many people or socialize much. That may be your nature, you know. That's not necessarily impersonalism. But just that change in mentality does come, and we have to observe how much we are getting into that mode of impersonalism, right? Is it wrong? Like someone mentioned in the chat box, isn't it necessary to be concentrated on oneself to improve? Yes, it is necessary to be concentrated on oneself to improve. But then you should not forget that your success depends on other success. Bhakti Maharaj used to say that my success in Krishna consciousness depends on your success in Krishna consciousness. And isn't it true? Let's say your consciousness is very nice, but you go to the temple and the devotee is cooking prasadam, his consciousness is not nice. So what about you then? Your consciousness will be affected by his consciousness. Right or wrong? So my success depends on your success. All right. Let's go to the next slide. So here Vishwanath Thakur gives categorization of devotional service. One is Kevala Bhakti. Kevala Bhakti is also known as Shuddha Bhakti, completely pure devotional service. And this is explained in Gita in verses like 7.1, 8.14, 9.13, 9.22. Then there is Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti. Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti means Bhakti is more, Karma Gyan Yoga is less. Fine. So that is explained in 7.16, 7.29, 8.12. And there is Guni Bhuta Bhakti, where Bhakti is less, Karma Gyan Yoga are more. So they are technically called the other way. Like Pradhani Bhuta is called Karma Mishra, Jnana Mishra, Yoga Mishra, Bhakti. And Guni Bhuta Bhakti is called Bhakti Mishra Gyan, Bhakti Mishra Karma, Bhakti Mishra Yoga. Okay. Fine. Do this exercise, please. Take 2 to 3 minutes on your own in your notebook. Okay, have you done it?
Yes.
So you all must be having different responses to this. I'll just show you the correct answer. You can cross check with that. So as explained by our acharyas, the lowest categories of are Artha Bhakta and Artharthi Bhakta. Those who approach Krishna because they are suffering or they want something in material gain. They are called Karma Mishra Bhaktas. But then better than them is Jigyasu, who has some inclination towards knowledge. Right? But the Jigyasu is also Karma Mishra Bhakta. Then better than Jigyasu Bhakta is Jnani Bhakta, who is also known as Jnana Mishra Bhakta or Yoga Mishra Bhakta. The element of renunciation has come in. Right? And then above Jnani Bhakta is Ananya Bhakta, Shuddha Bhakta, who takes many births to become Shuddha Bhakta. Fine. So Srila Rupa Goswami explains in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that if you are progressing in devotional service, three things should increase in you. Wherever you are now, at whatever stage, three things should be increasing in you if you are progressing in devotional service. What are those three things? Knowledge, renunciation, devotion. Three things: knowledge, renunciation, and devotion. Then you are moving closer to pure devotional service.
Prabhuji, one clarification. Can I?
Yeah.
This Artha and Artharthi, we are saying, we are taking a premise that Bhakti has come in prominently. Can it be the other way around, like Karma Mishra Bhakti or Gyan Mishra Bhakti, and only Bhakti Mishra Karma? It can be Bhakti Mishra Karma, where Bhakti is slightly less and Karma is more, Gyan is more, and Yoga is more. Then these three can come. It may become 4. Instead of 4, it may become 7 also. Is it practical? Can happen.
Yeah, I mean, that is there.
Instead of Bhakti Mishra Jnana, it may be Jnana Mishra Bhakti or Karma Mishra Bhakti. We are taking it, Bhakti is prominent. Other three are there when Karma, Jnana is more and Bhakti is less. They start from there, make a start. It can happen.
Yeah, then it can happen from there also.
Okay.
But then the chances are less.
Okay.
Chances are
Here
less.
we are starting with Karma Yoga, and after Karma Yoga, we are taking it Karma Mishra Bhakti. Bhakti becomes prominent.
Karma Yoga means Bhakti is there.
Okay.
Right? Now, Karma Yoga, if Bhakti is too less, then it will be also known as Karma Yoga. But then very shallow. Right? Very shallow. So, and very indirect.
Then
Which will take
it may become
long time.
okay.
Long,
it may
long,
become
long.
Karma Mishra Bhakti. Means at the very
It's called
starting.
Bhakti Mishra Karma. Bhakti Mishra Karma. It's called Bhakti Mishra Karma.
Okay. Understood. Thank you.
But at any of these stages, if the person gets association of the pure devotee of Krishna, then one can be immediately elevated to the level of pure devotional service.
But why
All right.
Krishna said these souls are very rare? When Jnani is there, his bhakti is also there. He comes in the association of devotees also, surrenders himself also. Why it becomes very difficult for a Jnani to surrender to Krishna and become a pure bhakta?
Because it
Krishna
takes
says
long
these
time.
souls are very rare.
Long time, no? It takes long time. Out of millions of jnanis, one will become a pure devotee of Krishna. And you say, how is it very rare? So getting association of pure devotees is very rare. It's not that easy.
We take in
getting
our
associated.
own way. No, we go to the
We
temple,
take it in
associate
our
with
own way.
senior
Yeah,
devotees.
yeah.
We think we are in the association of the devotees.
Correct. We take it in our own way that so many iskcon centers are there, so many devotees are there. So how is it rare? But within
Yes.
iskcon also not everyone is pure devotee, right? So that way association of pure devotees is always rare. We may say that devotees in iskcon are practicing pure devotion. But then when you say pure devotee of Krishna, then you're talking about perfect pure devotee of Krishna. That's very less.
Okay.
Right?
Thank you.
Again, next series of verses, worshipping the demigods. So some people do not surrender to Krishna. At the same time, they do surrender, but they surrender to someone else. And those are the demigods. Why they do that? So Krishna explains. Kamaistais hitagyanaha prapadyante anya devataha tang tang niyamam asthaya prakritaya niyatah swaya. Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender into demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. Why they surrender to demigods? Because their intelligence has been stolen by material desire. So they surrender to the demigods. But what should one do if one has material desires? Should one surrender to the demigods or worship the demigods? What is the suggestion for such a person?
Yes, if they are not able to control their material desires, surrender to semi-god, then purify yourself, then move on to Krishna. No.
No, that's not the solution given. In the purport, Prabhupada says, Shukdev Goswami is saying Bhagavatam, Akamaha sarva kamo va moksha kamo daradihi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. Even if you are full of material desires, go to Krishna only. Don't go to a demigod.
But if some petition, it is there that in Vedas, these materialistic things are there to make the neophyte devotees to satisfy their material desire, then move on to Krishna. I was taking from that interpretation.
Okay. But then the problem is that person may go to a demigod, fulfill one's material desire, and then stop there. There's no progress. But if that person goes to Krishna, then Krishna will make sure that that person's making some progress towards him. Right?
Yes.
Krishna takes longer to fulfill the material desires. So meanwhile, purification happens of the heart. Fine. So what does Prabhupada say in the purport regarding this? Rupanshi Mataji, please read.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, this I have read due to lower nature.
Yeah.
Due to lower nature, less intelligent people who have lost their spiritual sense take shelter of demigods for immediate fulfillment of material desire. Generally, such people do not go to the Supreme Personality of Godhead because they are in the lower modes of nature, ignorance and passion, and therefore worship various demigods. Following the rules and regulation of worship, they are satisfied. The worshippers of demigods are motivated by small desires and do not know how to reach the supreme goal. But a devotee of Supreme Lord is not misguided.
A devotee is not misguided because a devotee has some little patience. Material desires get fulfilled immediately when you approach the demigods. And a devotee thinks, fine, if it's taking some time, it's okay. But then I'll also become closer to Krishna if I approach Krishna. Fine. Let's read this for this also. Uma Mataji.
Krishna Prabhu. Krishna is a master of all, because in Vedic literature there are recommendations for worshipping different gods for different purpose. Example, a diseased man is recommended to worship the sun. Those who are not devotees of the Lord think that for certain purposes, demigods are better than the Supreme Lord. But a pure devotee knows the Supreme Lord Krishna is the master of all. Therefore, a pure devotee never goes to demigod for satisfaction of his material needs. He depends on the Supreme Lord, and the pure devotee is satisfied with whatever he gives. 7.20 purport. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Now we can understand it in this way. You see, I'll give you an example. If one is a mature parent, then a mature parent also wants to fulfill material desires of his child. It's not that a mature parent does not want to fulfill the desires, right? A mature parent will also want to fulfill the desire, material desires, if they are genuine material desires. But the mature parent will also see to it that the child is not too spoiled, isn't it? And an immature parent will fulfill all the desires of the child, not thinking about whether that child is developing a good character or not, whether that child is becoming responsible in life or not, isn't it? Mm. So just like there are some parents who are always concerned about the comfort of the child, not about the character of the child. Similarly, the demigods are there. They are more interested in the worshipper's comfort. But Krishna is a different kind of parent. He is interested in our character. So Krishna uh, does fulfill the material desires of his devotees. Not all, but whatever is required. But Krishna also takes some time to fulfill them. Why? Because when you patiently continue to work with detachment in a dutiful manner, that spirit blossoms your character. How does it blossom your character? You become more tolerant. You become more patient. You become more determined. You become more selfless. You become a bit detached also, right? So that blossoms your personality. And Krishna is interested in that. We all know if you get things easily, you don't value it. But if you pay a good amount of price for something, you have worked very hard for it, then you value it more, right? So demigods, they fulfill the desires quickly. But then that has a wrong impression on the soul. Then the tendency to enjoy becomes more. Oh, I can get it so easily, so quickly. I want more, I want more, I want more, I want more. But if you have gotten it after long time of efforts, meanwhile you have been purifying your heart, then after some time, well, it's okay. It was not such a big thing anyway. Why did I invest my consciousness so much into it? Right? So that's why Krishna does that. All right. List incidents in which a pure devotee of Krishna worshipped a particular demigod for fulfillment of some desire.
Prabhuji, gopis worship Katyayani to get married to Krishna, right?
Very good. Yes. And some other example.
Sri Ram went to Ayodhya when prayed to Shiva when he was reaching there.
Lord, who?
Sri Ram, Ramachandra, when he's going to
We are talking examples of devotees of Krishna.
Shiva to
Devi worshipped Gauri Devi.
Okay. For what?
For getting Krishna as a husband.
Okay. Any other devotee who approached a demigod
Can
to
we
fulfill?
take the example of Rukmini also? She wanted Krishna and worshipped there.
Well, she did not go to worship Durga. That was just a plan, strategy to meet Krishna at the temple of Goddess Durga.
Can we say that Arjuna, when they all got Agni Deva's chariot, they worshipped,
Yeah.
right?
Arjuna tried to please Lord Shiva to get his Pashupakastra.
Yeah.
No.
Prabhuji, the Vrajavasis had worshipped Indradev before Krishna told them to worship Govardhan.
Correct. Yes, we have examples.
Markandeya Muni worshipped Shiva earlier stage.
So we have examples of devotees pure devotees who worshipped a particular demigod for fulfillment of some desire. Is it needed? Well, it's not needed. But if a devotee does it, if a devotee of that level does it, is it wrong? It's not wrong. Fine. Do we have to do it? No, we don't have to do it. But if Krishna asks us to do it, there's nothing wrong about it. So when Krishna told Arjuna, you worship Shiva, you worship Goddess Durga, nothing wrong about it.
Prabhuji, if the pure devotee goes to demigod, can it be taken there is slight variation in his faith and nishtha in Krishna?
No, if there is pure devotee, if the devotee is pure, then completely pure, then there's no possibility of deviation.
But what will be the need of a pure devotee going to a demigod? What circumstances will make him to go to demigod instead of asking Krishna only?
If you have to buy a medicine, where will you go?
To a chemist.
If you are a pure devotee and you have to buy medicine, where will you go?
Chemist only.
Krishna? No, right? Not go to Krishna, you'll go to a chemist.
Yes.
So pure devotees see the demigods as empowered administrators. If they need something and the demigod can do something for them, so they give a chance to demigods to do some seva.
Then if a pure devotee goes to them, correspondingly demigods also must be feeling happy that a pure devotee of Krishna
Of
is
course,
coming to me.
of course,
I am able
of
to
course.
serve the pure devotee. Yes.
Of course, why not?
Okay.
Of course. Then it's a privilege for those demigods to serve such a pure devotee of Krishna. It's a privilege then. So that's why now that is happening at a very, high level. How can we appreciate? But it's happening at their level because they're of that same level or a pure devotee is higher than them. So they may also want to serve or assist a pure devotee of Krishna. Fine.
Thank you.
Okay. Next. Yo yam tanum bhaktah shraddhaya chitumar ichchati tasya chalang shraddham tam eva vidadham yaham. I'm in everyone's heart as a super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. So Krishna is saying, I am present in everyone's heart as super soul. And if someone wants to worship a demigod, I help that person to make that desire strong and steady. So that that person also moves ahead in his journey. Slowly, but still, some movement is there in the forward direction. Right? So Krishna gives that faith. Now, what's the problem? We'll come to that later. So let's read the purport first. Tulasi Matas.
God has given independence to everyone. Therefore, if a person desires to have material enjoyment and wants very sincerely to have such facilities from the material demigods, the Supreme Lord as Supersoul in everyone's heart understands and gives facilities to such persons. As the Supreme Father of all living entities, he does not interfere with their independence, but gives all facilities so that they can fulfill their material desires. Some may ask why all-powerful God gives facilities to the living entities for enjoying this material world, and so lets them fall into the trap of illusory energy. The answer is that if the Supreme Lord, as Supersoul, does not give such facilities, then there is no meaning to independence. Therefore, he gives everyone full independence, whatever one likes. But his ultimate instruction we find in the Bhagavad-gita: one should give up all such engagements and fully surrender unto him. That will make him happy. Both the living entity and demigods are subordinate to the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the living entity cannot worship the demigod by his own desire, nor can the demigod bestow any benediction without the supreme will. As it is said, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Generally, persons who are distressed in the material world go to the demigods, as they are advised in the Vedic literature. A person wanting some particular thing may worship such and such a demigod. For example, a diseased person is recommended to worship the sun god. A person wanting education may worship the goddess of learning, Saraswati. And a person wanting a beautiful wife may worship the goddess Uma, the wife of Lord Shiva. In this way, there are recommendations in the Shastras, Vedic scriptures, for different modes of worship of different demigods. And because a particular living entity wants to enjoy a particular material facility, the Lord inspires him with a strong desire to achieve that benediction from that particular demigod. And so he successfully receives the benediction. The particular mode of devotional attitude of living entity toward a particular type of demigod is also arranged by the Supreme Lord. The demigods cannot infuse the living entities with such an affinity. But because he is the Supreme Lord, or the Supersoul, who is present in the hearts of all living entities, Krishna gives impetus to a man to worship certain demigods. The demigods are actually different parts of the universal body of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, they have no independence. In the Vedic literature, it is stated the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Supersoul, is also present within the heart of the demigod. Therefore, he arranges through the demigod to fulfill the desire of the living entity. But both the demigod and the living entity are dependent on the Supreme Will. They are not independent. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Sataya Shraddhaya Yuktastasyaradhanam ihate labate cha tatah kaman mayeva vihitan hitam. Endowed with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. Right? Krishna gives them through the demigods. Right? Antavattu phalang tesham tadbhavati alpamedasam devan deva yajo yanti madbhakta yanti mamapi. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. So Krishna is, explaining us the benefit of worshiping Krishna over the worship of demigods. Next. But then there is a category who do not surrender to the demigods. They surrender to Krishna. However, they surrender to the impersonal aspect of Krishna. They are known as impersonalists, nirvisheshwadis. So they are explained in this verse. Avyaktam vyaktimapannam manyante mama buddhayah param bhavamajananto mamavyayam anuttamam. What does it say? Avyaktam vyaktim apannam. From avyakt, the non-manifest, vyaktim, a personality has come. Which means from Brahman, a person has come. That's Mayavad, basically. That there is no variety in spiritual world. There is homogeneous Brahman. And from there, some variety has come. And that variety has come because of presence of three modes of material nature. So even when God takes a form, that form is material form, as per their understanding. So what they will say, Krishna's soul is spiritual, Krishna's body is material. That's what they will say. Just like my soul is spiritual and my body is material. That's how they think. And that's why it's also known as Mayavad. Param bhavam ajananto, they don't know my supreme nature. Unintelligent men who do not know me perfectly think that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, was impersonal before and have now assumed this personality. Due to their small knowledge, they do not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. Fine. So Prabhupada in the purport is going to refute impersonalism. Here you see, in the previous verse, when he was describing the demigod worshippers, Krishna was describing, he was calling them Alpamedhasam. Alpamedhasam means less intelligent. But when he describes impersonalists, he uses the word abuddhayaha, means zero intelligence, no intelligence at all. Therefore, in that way, demigod worshippers are better than impersonalists, because at least they're accepting a personality, a form, and they want to be subservient to that form. They want to surrender, right? Let's read the first 3 paragraphs. Someone volunteer, please. Rupanshi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Devotee Pranam. Those who are worshippers of demigods have been described as less intelligent person, and here the impersonalists are similarly described. Lord Krishna in his personal form is here speaking before Arjuna, and still due to ignorance, impersonalists argue that the Supreme Lord ultimately has no form. Yamuna Acharya, a great devotee of the Lord in the disciplic succession of Ramanujacharya, has written a very appropriate verse in this connection. He says, Tvam Shila Rupa Charitaha Param Parakshitaha Satvena Satvi Kartaya Pravlascha Shastraha Prakhyata Deva Paramarthaha Vidam Mataischa Naiva Asura Prakritaha Prabha Bhavanti Bodham. My dear Lord, devotees like Vyasadeva and Narad, who know you to be the personality of Godhead, by understanding different Vedic literatures, one can come to know your characteristic, your form, and your activities. And one can thus understand that you are the supreme personality of Godhead. But those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance, the demons, the non-devotees, cannot understand you. They are unable to understand you. However expert such non-devotees may be in discussing Vedanta and the Upanishads and other Vedic literatures, it is not possible for them to understand the personality of Godhead. Shota Ratan 12. In the Brahm Sahita, it is stated that the personality of Godhead cannot be understood simply by the study of Vedanta literature. Only by the mercy of the Supreme Lord can the personality of the Supreme be known. Therefore, in this verse, it is clearly stated that not only are the worshippers of the demigods less intelligent, but those non-devotees who are engaged in Vedanta and speculation on Vedic literature without any tinge of true Krishna consciousness are also less intelligent. And for them, it is not possible to understand God's personal nature. Persons who are under the impression that the absolute truth is impersonal are described as abuddha, which means those who do not know the ultimate feature of the absolute truth. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that supreme realization begins from the impersonal Brahman and then rises to the localized super soul. But the ultimate word in the absolute truth is the personality of Godhead. Modern impersonalists are still less intelligent, for they do not even follow their great predecessors, Shankaracharya, who has specifically stated that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. Impersonalists, therefore, not knowing the supreme truth, think Krishna to be only the son of Devaki and Vasudeva, or a prince or a powerful living entity. This is also condemned in the Bhagavad-gita 9.11. Avajanti ma muddha Manushyam tanum ashritam. Only the fools regard me as an ordinary person.
Thank you.
Prabhuji, here it is in the, as it is stated, Bhagavatam it is stated, supreme realization begins from the impersonal Brahman and then rises to localized supersoul. All the times we decry impersonalists, but here we say that supreme realization begins right from the impersonalism. How do we reconcile it?
So there are two types of impersonalism. In Sanskrit, it is known as Brahmavad and Mayavad. When we decry impersonalism, mostly it is Mayavad that we decry. But there is Brahmavad. Brahmavad means these are people who uh, who are jnanis, and they do have some element of devotion also, but because they have not yet gotten association of pure devotees of Krishna, they are still attracted towards Brahman effulgence. So you are understanding the jnani whom we talked about before.
Yeah,
A jnani
he
is
was
a
attracted to
professor.
Krishna was Jnani. Yes.
Yeah, but he's a jnani. So that person is also attracted towards impersonal aspect, Brahman, right?
Okay.
But then they are not Mayavadis. So that impersonalism is a stepping stone in one sense.
Brahmavadi, sir.
Brahmavad. However, when we decry impersonalism completely, that is for Mayavads. This. And for a pure devotee of Krishna, even Brahmavadis are not so, pure. Therefore, then they may also decry a Brahmavadi from that level, from their level. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
So why is Krishna covered? So Krishna explains in 7.25. He says, Na aham prakashah sarvasya yoga maya samavritah muloyam na bijanati lokomam ajamavyayam. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. For non-devotees, Krishna is covered. For devotees, also Krishna is covered. For non-devotees, the curtain is of Mahamaya. For devotees, the curtain is of Yogamaya. Krishna is covered. It's not easy to see Krishna, though he's present everywhere, right? I'm never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. Prabhupada writes in the purport about this curtain of Maya. Someone else read, please. Why most of you keep your video cameras off? Do you really participate in the class? Or you just join to mark your attendance? Um,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Can I read, Prabhu?
Yes.
Not everybody saw Krishna. It may be argued that since Krishna was visible to everyone when he was present on this earth, how can it be said that he is not manifest to everyone? But actually, he was not manifest to everyone. When Krishna was present, there were only a few people who could understand him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the assembly of Kurus, when Shishupala spoke against Krishna's being elected president of the assembly, Bhishma supported him and proclaimed him to be the supreme god. Similarly, the Pandavas and a few others knew that he was the supreme, but not everyone. Purport 7.25.
Not everyone
Hare.
saw Krishna, even though Krishna was present. Not everyone saw Krishna because Krishna is covered by his Maya potency. Now, one may even think, if Krishna is covered by his Maya, can the Maya also cover him? Just like the way the Mayavadis say that Krishna is also covered by his Maya. So Krishna, to prove that he is not covered by his Maya, he gives this verse. Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjuna bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu vedana kashani. Because how can Krishna know everything then if he's covered by Maya? But he's saying, I know everything in the past, in the present, and in the future. And that is only possible if I am not covered by Maya or I'm not touched by Maya. So I'm not covered by Maya, right? And no one knows me, but I know everyone. O Arjuna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me, no one knows. So he does not forget. Krishna doesn't forget. Let's read this slide. Ratnangi Lakshmi.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Yes, Prabhu. God doesn't forget. If Krishna, the form of Supreme, second Prabhu. If Krishna, the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, were Maya, material, as the impersonalists consider him to be, then, like the living entity, he would change his body and forget everything about his past life. Anyone with a material body cannot remember his past life, nor can he foretell his future life, nor can he predict what will happen in his present life. Therefore, he cannot know the events of past, present, and future. Unless one is liberated from material contamination, he cannot know past, present, and future. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. And Krishna doesn't forget. That's a wonderful quality of Krishna. There's this pastime of Muchukunda Maharaj, right? Because Krishna doesn't forget, he also doesn't fail to be grateful. He remembers. And that's the key to remember, to be always grateful. To always remember what good others have done for us. So Krishna doesn't forget. The story of Muchukunda Maharaj is very sweet. You know that Muchukunda Maharaj was a devotee of Krishna who got a chance to serve the demigods by fighting for them. And he fought very valiantly. So he had sleepless days and nights. And he defeated the demons and won the kingdom for the demigods. The demigods, after the war was over and they were victorious now, they told Muchukunda Maharaj, what do you want? She said, I have not slept for a long time. I want to sleep peacefully. So the demigod said, okay, then that's the blessing. You go and sleep. And sleep as much as you like, as long as you like. No one will be able to wake you up from that sleep. If someone wakes you up, then that day will be the last day of that person. So Muchukunda Maharaj came to planet Earth and he went to Kamyavan. He found a cave in Kamyavan and he slept in Kamyavan in a cave. For ages, he was sleeping, right? So then we know the story of Kalyavan trying to kill Krishna. He came to Mathura to fight with Krishna, and Krishna said, who will fight with this fellow? I don't want to fight. I don't want to look at your face. He started walking off from Mathura. He wanted to take the demon away from Mathura. He didn't want his devotees to get disturbed. So he was walking, and Kalyavan was thinking that I'll catch him. So he was walking fast, but still his speed was less than Krishna's speed. He started running, and Krishna is walking, and he's running, still is not able to catch Krishna. And they all the way come to Kamyavan. Kamyavan is one of the vanas in the greater Vrindavan, Vraja. So Krishna entered the cave and it was dark inside. So Krishna was carrying an Uttariya chadar. He covered the body of Muchukunda Maharaj. Why did Krishna do that? Well, one reason is because Krishna wanted to cheat Kalyavan, that this fellow is me who's sleeping now. And the other reason is Krishna wanted to serve his devotee. You know, when a person is sleeping, you cover that person with a bed sheet, right? So you can be warm and cozy. So Krishna put his chadar on Muchukunda Maharaj. My service to you. Sleep peacefully. Right? So, and then Krishna disappeared. Kalyavan comes into the cave. shouting, "Where is Krishna?" Nowhere outside. He goes inside. See, someone is sleeping with that Uttariya on. "Oh, you fellow, you sleeping here so peacefully?" I mean, this is such a big insult, right? Your enemy is behind you. He's chasing you. And instead of running away out of fear, you just go into a cave and you sleep. And that's heights of insult. So you are sleeping so peacefully, and you made me chase you so much just to come and sleep here. So then he kicked the Mushkunda Maharaj. Mushkunda Maharaj had this benediction that whoever disturbs you in your sleep will be fried. So he opened up his eyes and came a big, you know, blow of fire. And Kalyavan was at that time, right, uh, roasted, fried into ashes. Uh, and then Krishna came out from his hiding. Muchkunda Maharaj got to see Krishna. So Muchkunda Maharaj was thinking, I mean, what's this? I was in Tamoguna. I was sleeping for ages. I did not do any devotional service. Why did you give me darshan? People take such long time after meditation, austerity, yoga, they get to see you. And not even you, they get to see the toenail of you. And I'm getting to see you. And I was sleeping all the time. So then Krishna said, two reasons why I came and gave you darshan. He said, because you did devotional service in the past, and I don't forget what my devotees do. And second, you're sleeping in Vrindavan. That is also a seva. So don't think you're not doing any seva. So that's why I came to give you darshan. Hmm. So in this way, Krishna does not forget. Krishna is very grateful. From devotee's perspective, that's very nice. Krishna does not forget. And Prabhupada then explains that mm, the cloud cannot cover the sun. Therefore, Krishna does not forget. Beautiful analogy he gives. Yes, let's read Divya Vishwambar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. He is just like the sun. Sorry, cloud cannot cover the sun. He is just like the sun, and Maya is like a cloud. In the material world, we can see that there is the sun and that there are clouds on different stars and planets. The clouds may cover all these in the skies temporarily, but this covering is only apparent to our limited vision. The sun, moon, and stars are not actually covered. Similarly, Maya cannot cover the Supreme Lord by his internal potency. He is not manifest to the less intelligent of men. I can see that word,
Fine.
the last word. Okay.
Less intelligent class of you. Okay, next. So Krishna said that there is a cloud that covers these people. Now, what is that cloud which covers the vision of people? They are not able to see Krishna. So in the next verse, Krishna explains that cloud or describes that cloud. What is that cloud? What is it made up of? So Krishna says, Ichha dvesha samuthena dvandva mohena bharata sarva bhutani sammoham sarge yanti parantapa. That cloud is made up of these two elements, Ichha, Dvesha. That makes the cloud. So why am I not able to see Krishna? My intelligence is clouded. My vision is clouded. What is clouding my vision? Ichha, Dvesha. Like, dislike, hatred, desire. That's the cloud, right? That cloud is covering Krishna. I mean, covering my vision of Krishna. O son of Bharata, O son of Bharata, Krishna says, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arisen from desire and hate. And Prabhupada explains what is that duality? Good and bad, honor and dishonor, misery and happiness, pleasure and pain, man and woman. This is the duality. And this duality, it covers our vision of Krishna. Interestingly, the whole world is, whatever we do in this world is basically an expression of our love, I mean, lust, you can say, and our hatred. That's all. Anything you do. Even like, let's say, watching a Facebook video or YouTube video and liking it or disliking it is a manifestation of your ichha or dvesha, right?
Can you
So
explain a little more how these dualities cover our vision? We are not able to see or understand Krishna because of happiness, distress, or how do they cover our intelligence?
duality means what? Matter, material element.
Okay.
So my consciousness is now completely engrossed in material things. So then how will I be able to perceive Krishna? Then I'll go beyond the duality. Then I'll be able to see Krishna. Krishna's
Our
presence.
dualities are spiritual as well as material. So when we are engaged in dualities, means we enter into material things also that cover our vision. Is that thing?
What did you say? Duality means spiritual
Duality
also?
means happiness, goodness, badness. That is spirituality as well as material. So when we come into contact with material things, is this
No,
understanding correct?
duality here means matter, material duality. Like, I'm happy now, I'm sad now. This is material honor, material respect, material disrespect, dishonor. Anything related to the body and mind. That's duality. When it comes to spiritual life or spiritual existence, there is no duality. How there's no duality? In spiritual life, happiness is also happiness, sorrow is also happiness.
But distress is also there in spiritual category. No, only happiness.
Distress is also happiness in spiritual life. There's no duality.
How to overcome these dualities immediately here? Only Krishna consciousness.
Immediately, it's not possible. As long as we are in the material body, we'll have duality or experience of duality. So that cloud will not get covered. Removed. Right. It's not possible immediately. So this is the reason why we are not able to see Krishna. Now, how does that duality get removed? That was the question, right? Krishna answers that in the next verse. Yesham tu antagatam papam jananam punya karmanam tedvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mama dridvrataha. So he says, for whom it gets removed? Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. Fine. So first way to become free from duality is stop sinful life. That's one thing, right? Then act piously means engage in devotional service. So then Prabhupada explains how one can become Dridhavrata, determined in Krishna consciousness. So he mentions you can, later on he'll mention that in verse 9.14 of Bhagavad-gita. One should engage in fast on holy days like Janmashtami, Ekadashi, like that. Fine. Next. Having spoken this, now Krishna is going to conclude the chapter by talking about Yoga Mishra Bhaktas. Fine. Or Jnana Mishra Bhaktas. How do they attain success in life? So he says, Jara Marana Mokshaya. Let me share 7.29. Jara Marana Mokshaya. Mam Ashikti Yatantiye. Te Brahma Tad Vidu Kritsnam Adhyatmam Karma Chakhilam. Intelligent persons who are endeavoring for liberation from old age and death take refuge in me in devotional service. They are actually Brahman because they entirely know everything about transcendental activities. Fine. You read the purport later because anyway, we are going to discuss this more in next chapter, chapter 8. Here Krishna is only introducing the terms. He'll explain in the next chapter. So what he's saying is that if you know all this, Arjuna, you become situated transcendental. And Arjuna will ask, okay, then tell me, what are these things? So he'll ask in chapter 8, and Krishna will explain. Sadi bhutadi daivam mam sadi yagyam chaye viduhu prayana kale picham mam te yukta chetasaham. Those in full consciousness of me, who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestation of the demigods and of all methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death. So Krishna has used some technical terms here, like Adi Daiva, Adi Bhuta, Adi Yakya, and all that. And then Arjuna will inquire in the next chapter, what does all this mean? We will ask. Krishna will explain. So we complete the chapter here. Any questions or comments?
Good morning, Suman.
Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. I wanted to know if can we worship some demigods in order to get bhakti for Lord Krishna?
It's not recommended.
Because I have a small sibling, I like to
That's okay. I mean, you can ask your spiritual master. If your spiritual master allows, then you can worship in the proper Vaishnava way. But if the spiritual master says no, so then don't worship.
Yes, thank you, Prabhu.
Ashok and Nisha.
It is 7.29 purport. The pure devotees are transcendentally situated on the Brahman platform and they know everything about transcendental activities. What does this mean? Pure devotees are transcendentally situated on the Brahman platform.
Situated on the Brahman platform means they're beyond the three modes.
Beyond the three modes.
A pure devotee is also Brahman realized. Because as Prabhupada explains, complete realization means realization of Bhagavan in all three features. Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. So pure devotee of Krishna is also Brahman realized. One who is only Brahman realized is incomplete. But one who is Bhagavan realized, as a subset of his realization, he is also Brahman realized.
That is the final goal actually, Bhagavan realization.
Bhagavan realization. It's just like if you are taking the lift or staircase to 100th floor, naturally you have gone beyond 99th floor or 80th floor or 76th floor, right? When you have gone to 100, you have naturally gone beyond 70, 60, 80, 90. So similarly, if someone is Bhagavan realized, naturally that person is also Brahman realized or Paramatma realized.
One more. This is again in purport. Brahman we use very loosely sometimes. Brahman, everything. But here Prabhupada says only persons who perform activities in Krishna consciousness, Mam, Ashraya, are actually entitled to be called Brahman because they are actually endeavoring to reach Krishna planet. Such persons have no beliefs. So Brahman here, only Krishna conscious persons we call Brahman. How do we understand this?
Because they can permanently be there. Those who are only Brahman realized, they'll go and after some time they will fall.
Brahman realization and becoming Brahman, what is the difference in that?
Becoming Brahman means it's the same actually. It all depends on who we are talking about. A devotee can also become Brahman and an impersonalist can also become Brahman. But for an impersonalist, becoming Brahman means he's merging with Brahman. A devotee becoming Brahman means he's entering the spiritual world, a spiritual abode, a spiritual planet.
Becoming Brahman is called important, but those impersonalists who are Brahman, they are called unintelligent. They are also Brahman. On the one hand called Brahman, and on the other hand called unintelligent.
Because they will fall from their state of Brahman realization after some time.
Okay, they are not firmly situated or they are to go one step ahead. skill.
Yeah.
They don't go there, stuck
And you
up
are
there and fall down.
again we are getting confused. When Krishna is talking about abudhayaha, he is talking about which impersonalist? Avyaktim vyaktim apannam. He is talking about the Mayavadis.
Okay.
He is calling him as unintelligent. Right? So that's why you should know Srila Prabhupada uses the word impersonalist. But then that word impersonalist may mean Brahmavadi or Mayavadi. And then you have to look at the context of the verse. In which context has this verse been spoken? When Krishna is using the verse avyaktam vyaktim apannam manyante mama bhutaya, is talking about those impersonalists who are Mayavadis.
Brahman is one word I am clearly not able to, because in many ways it is interpreted in, depending upon the
Because
context, it is
that's
interpreted
natural,
in
no?
many
The
ways.
word Brahman has many meanings.
Okay.
You have to look at the context. The word Brahman has many meanings. Brahman is Krishna, Brahman is Krishna's energy, Brahman is we.
Jiva is also called Brahman.
The entire creation is also Brahman, because everything is Brahman in that sense. Right? So therefore you have to always look at the context. What is the context? Why this word is used? And in that context, that word will take a different meaning.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavad. Prabhuji, is this impersonalist, like, could we just straight away say that the Mayavadis, like, they are the impersonalists, or there is another definition, there is a broader thing to impersonalists?
We have already explained that in the introduction class. There are two kinds of impersonalists, Mayavadis and Brahmavadis.
Okay, so that's the one. So the Mayavadis are basically, they are also part of the impersonalist, because Prabhuji, there was a shloka in 12.5, this is not related to this, in where they are saying that, just focusing on the Brahman is actually not leading you. It's a very slow, painful process.
Yeah, that's true.
In 12.5. So I was just trying to clarify.
Yeah, so that is also impersonalism, but that is referring to Brahmavadis.
Brahmavadis, yeah. Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Can I ask you one question, Prabhuji?
Yeah.
Prabhuji, can we consider karma yogi who is there any category of karma yogi who do not believe in Krishna?
You see, not believing in Krishna means what? Here in iskcon, Prabhupada has made it completely Krishna consciousness. That person may believe in some other form of Krishna, Vishnu, Narayan, or Ramachandra, right? That person may not really accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Or that person may even not know that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has a personal form. That person may just know that there is a God. Who that God is, that person may not know. But that person might be doing it for God. Right? So then that person is also karma yogi in some sense. Because the spirit is there of doing it for God, the ultimate, the creator.
Actually, I have come across few people who are doing something good for like some environmentalist or something, and they people are actually doing something for environment, but then they are doing selflessly without any ulterior motive. So can those be considered as karma yogi, Prabhuji?
No, they can be called as nishkam, not karma. Yogi. Yogi means when they are connected to the Supreme, then the word yoga is there. Right? You just like there is sakama bhakta, nishkama bhakta. There is sakama karma yogi, there is nishkama karma yogi. Similarly, there is sakama karmi and nishkama karmi.
Okay. So they fall under any of these four categories which do not come to Krishna in 7.15, what Krishna has mentioned?
Maybe, may not be. Who knows? Now they may fall in that category. Later on, they may turn into a devotee. But Krishna says in chapter 12, when we are studying chapter 12, we'll learn those who are doing selflessly for others, they do have a chance to come to Krishna consciousness.
Okay, okay, okay.
Right? Sarva karma phala tyagam, Krishna says. So they are, because they are doing phala tyaga, they are serving selflessly, then they do have a chance to come to Krishna.
Okay. But after that, they will reach the karma yogi category. Currently, they are only into nishkam karmi, right? Okay.
It all depends on what they will do after that.
Okay. But currently, they are in nishkam karmi. They are not karma yogi.
They have some element of nishkam bhav,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And then, and we should know again, there are two kinds of sense gratification, personal and extended. So we may say they are doing it for others, but then it's not really only for others. There is personal gratification of false ego also.
Okay. Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Can I
Yes.
ask you one thing more? If someone asks us donation for a treatment, like someone is going for a surgery, for a treatment of a colleagues who work, is it that we should necessarily contribute, or like should we give?
That you decide. It depends on who that person is, how close that person is to you. That you decide. I mean, if you are close to that person and you feel like helping that person, you can help in some little way. That's okay. It's up to you. It all depends on how you approach that relationship and in future what you want to get out of that relationship or you want to do for that person. If you think is it an obligation that I should give only, then there's nothing like that. There's no such obligation. You know. But then if you just want to be kind and help someone, thinking maybe if I help that person may take to Krishna consciousness or whatever. And if you want to help in that way, then who is stopping you from helping? Right? But then a devotee will always think that do I have so much money that I can just help people like that? If I have money, why not I directly engage in Krishna Seva?
Yes.
Isn't it? Or maybe I can just do some little because it's an obligation, so I have to do something. But if that person is very close to you and you have this thinking, that mentality or this inkling, then this person may become a devotee if I help this person. Then why not? You can help to some extent if that's going to help that person.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes, and it all depends on how you approach. Sometimes for preaching purpose, you do have to help people materially. Right now, it all depends on how much is your capacity, how much you can.
Yes.
Correct. All right, so we stop here. See you tomorrow. We'll begin chapter 8. Hare Krishna.